Okay, so can I ask a question? Let's say you wrap it and the person stops making payments. You have your deed in lieu of foreclosure. What physically happens?
Here, I'll show you.
Like how is there no foreclosure process? I don't know what physically happens when they stop making their payments.
Okay, perfect. So here's what we do. Always give them a demand letter. Okay, so here's the property. We sold it back in 2019. The seller owes for March, April, May, and this was back in May. So seller owes for March, April, May. Now you fast forward and the seller now owes for July and June also. But what they did is they went back and they made a payment for what they said was the buyer. The buyer's like, well, I'm paying this for June. It's like, what are you talking about? You're behind on March, April, and May. You can't make a June payment, you knucklehead. Like, what are you talking about? So anyway, we sent a demand letter, okay, as we are professionals. We don't need to do this, but we're being polite. He did give us a $40,000 down payment. So I'm like, you know what? Let's give this guy the benefit of the doubt. Let's just help this guy out. So we sent out a demand letter, and then we found out the buyer, the guy that I sold it to on a wrap, ended up separating from his wife who lived in the property with him, and he's then sold it to her on a wrap. Hey, I love it. I freaking
That's
love
amazing.
it. It's so good. It's so good. So he sells it to her on a wrap. We're just going through the process. I could easily do something really simple and just take the property back. But when you buy a property, Jonah, let's start with when I acquire a property. When I go buy a property, what am I paying the escrow officer to do for me, or the closing attorney? Essentially, their job is to verify current ownership before we pass it to the new ownership.
Right.
And their process, they're getting paid to document that journey from current ownership to new ownership. Do I need an escrow officer to do that?
Technically, no.
Technically, no. I can go do what we call a tabletop closing. A one-page deed is all you need to transfer ownership. So you take that deed and you physically walk down to the county recorder's office. Now it's done through deeds.com or other things, right? There's other websites, places to do this. And you go record it. It costs $17 in Arizona to record that document. All you have to do is spend $17 to transfer ownership on a property. I can go to you right now. Anybody can come to me right now on my property. I can sign a deed over, go down to the county recorder's office on Monday, and that property is no longer my property. That's how easy it is to buy a house. You don't need a title company. You don't need an escrow officer. You don't need any of that stuff. It's smart to use them. It's smart to use them because you want to verify that there's no issues with the property. There's no claims from years ago. There's no mechanics liens. There's none of that kind of stuff. And then you want to make sure that it was done properly so that 10 years down the road, you don't have headaches. Pueblo, the property that we're talking about right now, here's what happened on Pueblo. The lady had passed away. I bought Pueblo from a dead person. Guys, this is crazy to me, okay? This is crazy. She's living there with her 3 daughters. She passes away. And her 3 daughters let the house go into foreclosure. 3 daughters. These are 25, 35, 45-year-old daughters with kids themselves living in the house with mom. How much do you think the mortgage payment was on this house?
I feel like it's going to be like $500 or like
$400 PITI. $400 PITI. Total payment was $400. They were 3 months behind in foreclosure, and the ARV on this house was like $65,000, $69,000, something like that. And they owed $45,000. So Brent's like, there's no spread in there. I can't make any money on that. They're in foreclosure. So I drive over to the house and I meet her and I sign a SubTo contract on the back of my Prius, the Prius I still have to this day. I go, how much will it take to buy this house? She goes, $500. Give me $500 cash. I'll let you take the house. I go, okay. But aren't there 3 sisters? She goes, yeah. I go, how about I give all 3 of you $500? She's like, how about I just keep all $1,500? I had a handful of TTP students there with me because Brant Daniels used to have people come into his office on Fridays and he'd call me and go, hey, can you take my people on creative finance runs and take them on appointments and show them what's what? So I go, great. So I had 2 people with me and one of them became a SubTo student. He's a big leader. He's awesome. Love him. He watches me do this and he's just like, holy crap, this is what this business looks like. I go, yeah. And he goes, but why are you buying the house? I go, well, because I'm going to wrap it. And he's like, wrap? What? You're going to wrap it? What? I go, bro, I'm going to sell this thing for $199,000. Why was the ARV $65,000, $69,000? Is because, pay attention to this, people, the mobile home was older than 1972.
Oh, nice.
It wasn't valuable or financeable, right? So no buyer, if I fix and flip it, no buyer could actually go obtain financing on it because the mobile home was too old. But that's with banks. But if I'm the bank, I'll finance anything, baby. So I looked at it like a 3-bed, 2-bath house, which is what I sold it for $199,000 with like 40-something thousand dollars down. The buyer has a 9% interest rate. We net cash flow on a wrap, like maybe $1,100 a month, something like that. It's crazy. So when I bought the property, that agreement I signed with the seller, I go, hey, we're going to go through probate. We're going to have an agreement that states you can't go sell this anywhere else. You can't do anything else. And I'm going to go file a memorandum on the property because I'm going to give you the $1,500 right now. And that was a personal decision, right? Most other people wouldn't have done that. So how did I record that document? I literally went down to the county recorder's office and filed the memorandum myself. I think memorandums are like half the price. They're like $8 or $9. So I filed the memorandum myself. And sure enough, a week later, a title company calls me up and go, hey, we see you have a memorandum on this property. I'm like, this freaking knucklehead. I just gave this girl $1,500 and she's out trying to sell the property behind my back. So I call her up. I go, hey, like, what did I do to fail you? And she goes, that's not me. That's not me. Turns out it was one of her other sisters who also was playing the game behind her back. I was like, no wonder y'all can't afford $400. You know what I'm saying? Like, holy crap. Talking about mindset. Like, these people don't have a resource problem or an intelligence problem. They're cunning devils, but they have a mindset problem, right? So good thing I was able to just record that document by myself. I didn't need a title company, an escrow company. I didn't need to go through anything. I was protected in that memorandum, right? Turns out the girl I signed with, the daughter I signed with, never gave her other sisters $500. So what happened is she called her sister and she goes, I already sold the house and the guy gave me $1,500. I'll give you your $500. And it all smoothed out and it was great. So we go through the probate process. Okay, I get Rylas Dana. He does the probate on this. Now the daughters have the power of attorney over the property. And I then do a new contract because now they have the rights to sign it. And I go and file a new memorandum. And how did I do that? I physically went down to the county recorder's office and filed the document for like $8 or $9 again. So I now own the property from a deceased lady. So I go sell the property to a buyer on the MLS for $199, $40,000 down. And we go through our actual title company to do all that. Okay. Title company then does the same thing that I did, this seller, whatever, like they literally are doing nothing more than I was doing myself. They just go down and they record the documents on your behalf. That's it. They have software that is dedicated to title and escrow officers that allow them to record documents faster than you. And so I own a title company. So what I do is I call Danielle and I go, hey, can you file this for me? And she'll just do it really quick and I don't have to physically do it. But before I owned a title company, I would physically go just do it myself. So I've now sold this property on a wrap, $199, $40,000 down, making good money. Do I really want to take the property back? No. I kind of want to see, what do we do? This is actually my first time, Jonah, having to go through and take a property back on a wrap. It's my first time. It doesn't happen that often. In fact, a couple of the guys I mastermind that have been doing creative finance for 40, 50 years, are like, I've never had that happen to me. It's pretty rare because these people are putting big chunks of money down, right? And if it does happen, it's like, thank goodness, especially for me, because how much is that property worth now? I could sell that property for $299, 7% interest with probably $40,000 to $50,000 down, right? So for me, I'm like, what do I want more than anything? I want the story. But if I want the story to teach my students about a deal, do I want a story where I just freaking am like this villain where I go in and I just take the property back because that's what my agreement says I'm allowed to do? No.
No, yeah.
I don't. And the reason why I haven't just gone and taken I have the deed. I have the deed. I can go and record it. It's already pre-signed, notarized, ready to go. I can walk down to the county recorder's office and transfer the ownership of the property back into my name without a foreclosure.
So that's what the deed in lieu of foreclosure. So it is literally that. That's what I was just double checking because it's like I wanted to double check I had that right, where it's because that's what I've been saying to sellers was like, you actually do have a deed that if I miss 2 payments, we put it in the contract.
Yeah, they physically have a deed.
Okay. I'm just double checking. That was like the whole question, which is funny. It's like, okay, it's literally that simple.
It is a pre-signed deed that the seller holds. It's just a deed. And they call it a deed in lieu because in lieu means instead of. So it's like, I have a deed. So instead of me having to go through a foreclosure, I have the deed physically, I'm holding it. Now, I've got a seller right now. We're buying 2 deals, or actually 2 properties. The seller's like, well, how do I know you're not going to default on me? I tell the seller, you don't. But if you need me to, I go, well, I'll pre-sign up a deed in lieu of foreclosure. You know how many people I've had to do that with? 2. So I get on the phone with her and I go, man, it doesn't sound like you're committed. Doesn't sound like you're ready to move forward. And it's literally the most magical phone call I've ever had in my life. And I thought Hayel was recording it the whole time, but she was just doing like an Instagram thing that never saved. Oh my gosh, bro. It was like F-150 story, 0% seller finance, imputed interest, non-refundable EMD. What's your company name? Give me your website. Why is this? What about when you don't perform? How am I going to freaking get the houses back? All of those things, every single thing you're talking about, we talked about it. And I talked about I'll pre-sign a deed that you don't have to, that you can hold. We can put on in a safety deposit box, whatever it is, that states that you cannot record this deed unless you can prove I'm 31 days late on a payment. I know that's a really long-winded answer, but did I give you the answer that you needed?
I mean, yeah, you gave me like way more than I needed. I loved it. I mean, I loved every moment of it.